This is Eric Swindle, and the author that I chose to research was Shel Silverstein. Sheldon Allen Silverstein was born September 25th, 1930 in Chicago, Illinois. Silverstein studied music and established himself as a musician and composer, writing songs including A Boy Named Sue, popularized by Johnny Cash, and Loretta Lynn's Once on the Way. Silverstein also wrote children's books including The Giving Tree and the poetry collection A Light in the Attic. Shel Silverstein enlisted in the U.S. Army in 1950 and served in Korea and Japan, becoming a cartoonist for Stars and Stripes magazine. After his time in the Army was up, he soon began drawing cartoons for magazines such as Look and Sports Illustrated, but it was for his work in Playboy magazine that began garnering Silverstein's national recognition. Silverstein's cartoons appeared in every episode of Playboy, riding the high point of its popularity from 1957 through the mid-70s. In 1963, Silverstein met Ursula Nordstrom, a book editor, and she convinced him to begin writing material for children, which he did on short notice. Uncle Shelby's story of Lafcadio, the lion who shot back, would be first, appearing the same year. The next year he wrote two, A Giraffe and a Half and The Giving Tree, the latter of which would go on to become Silverstein's most popular book. I had The Giving Tree. I don't know where it went, so this is just a summary of it. The Giving Tree is one of the most discussed children's books of all time, featuring a boy and a tree. The plot centers on both characters growing up and the boy having less and less time for the tree, but more and more need for what the tree can give him. Eventually, the tree allows itself to be chopped down to make lumber for a boat so the boy can go sailing. Years later, the boy returns as an old man, and the tree says, I'm sorry, boy, but I have nothing left to give you. The boy says, I do not need much now, just a quiet place to sit and rest. The tree then says, Well, an old tree stump is a good place for sitting and resting. Come on, boy, sit down and rest. The boy sits, making the tree once again happy to serve him. While at Playboy in the 1950s, Silverstein also began exploring other areas of creativity, including writing and music, and contributed poems to the magazine, including The Winner and The Smoke Off. And he wrote the books Playboy's TV Jeevies and its sequel, More Playboy's TV's Jeevies, Do-It-Yourself Dialogue for The Late Late Show. He also began publishing his own books of cartoons, beginning with Take 10 in 1955 and Grab Your Socks in 1956. In 1960, Silverstein's collected cartoons, Now Here's My Plan, a book of futilities, would appear with one of the most famous drawings adorning the cover. Around this time, he branched out into music, recording his first album, Harry Jazz, in 1959, a record containing several standards and a couple of original songs. Silverstein would go on to produce more than a dozen albums over his course of his diverse career. Where the Sidewalk Ends. This was a book of poems all written by Silverstein. The book was published in 1974. Silverstein was also the illustrator of the book and was known for some of the interesting poems as well as drawings. Some of the more memorable poems of this book include Ickle Me, Pickle Me, Tickle Me Too, Listen to the Mustants, Me, Stew, and Spaghetti. Ickle Me, Pickle Me, Tickle Me Too. This is one of my favorite poems of the book. I don't have the book, so I'm just going to read it off here. Ickle me, pickle me, tickle me too. Went for a ride in a flying shoe. Hooray, what fun, it's time we flew, said Ickle me, pickle me, tickle me too. Ickle was captain and Pickle was crew, and Tickle served coffee and mulligan stew. And as higher and higher and higher they flew, Ickle me, pickle me, tickle me too. Ickle me, pickle me, tickle me too. Over the sun and beyond the blue. Hold on, stay in, I hope we do, cried Ickle me, pickle me, tickle me too. Ickle me, pickle me, tickle me too. Never returned to the world they knew, and nobody knows what happened to dear Ickle me, pickle me, tickle me too. You can tell by the artwork up on the top corner that he was known for like abstract art that was kind of just really creative and really humorous. It kind of brought like a comedy side to it, and that's kind of what kids like look at when it comes to artwork because they like pictures. So they'll see this funny picture of a flying shoe with people flying the shoe, and then it'll make them want to like read the story. The next one is Sarah Cynthia Sylvia Stout. As you can see, this is kind of one of the longer ones of the book, but it's really creative on how he rhymes all these types of foods and stuff like that in a comedic way that makes kids want to read it and understand the rhyming concept, as well as just the general kind of the funny story behind the whole entire poem. Cynthia Sylvia Stout would not take the garbage out. She'd scour the pots and scrape the pans, candy the yams and spice the hams. And though her daddy would scream and shout, she simply would not take the garbage out. And so it piled up to the ceilings, coffee grounds, potato peelings, brown bananas, rotten peas, chunks of sour cottage cheese. It filled the can, it covered the floor, it cracked the window, and blocked the door, with bacon rinds and chicken bones, drippy ends of ice cream cones, prune pits, peach pits, orange peels, gloppy glumps of cold oatmeal, pizza crusts and withered greens, soggy beans and tangerines, crust of black burnt buttered toast, gristly bits of beefy roast. The garbage rolled on down the hall, it raised the roof, it broke the wall. Greasy napkins, cookie crumbs, glops of gooey bubble gum, cellophane from green bologna, rubbery blubbery macaroni, peanut butter, cake and dry, curdled milk and crust of pie, moldy melons, dried up mustard, eggshells mixed with lemon custard, cold French fried and rancid meat, yellow lumps of cream of wheat. At last the garbage reached so high that it finally touched the sky. And all the neighbors moved away and none of her friends would come to play. And finally Sarah Cynthia Stout said, "Okay, I'll take the garbage out." But then, of course, it was too late. The garbage reached across the state, from New York to the Golden Gate, and there in the garbage she did hate. Poor Sarah met an awful fate that I cannot now relate, because the hour is much too late. But children, remember Sarah Stout and always take the garbage out. This is an activity that the children can do. This is a just a little piece of paper that you can make. That has to do with the giving tree, which I said earlier was about a tree that sacrificed everything so that he could make this his friend, the little boy, happy, and just make it to where he had what he needed at whatever sacrifice the tree had to do. So as you can see, it's people who are giving to me, and it'll have three arrows. You can make more, as many as you need to. You can five, six, whatever. But you write the name of the person, and on the bubble next to it where it has two lines, like I said, you can add more if need to. You can put like what they're doing to help you, what are they giving to you, what are they providing with you that's making your life better, and then on the bottom half, how can I be more giving? So in those arrows, you can choose to write people's names of who you think you need to give or the children need to like help more. If it needs to be like, I need to help my mom clean the kitchen more, or I need to help my dad, do yard work or whatever it may be. That's completely up to the student and teacher, depending on who you're teaching, what grade level, stuff like that. But this would be a cool activity to do because it would get the students thinking about, they might not see their parents as someone who is sacrificing a lot to make sure they have, you know, stuff that they can live on and making, sacrifices and stuff like that. So I think this would be a really good activity for children to do to make them more understanding of sacrificing to make other people's happy or making their life, better while still being there for them at the same time.